Our lives are often filled with worry and chaos as the media propagates one negative story after another, bringing divide and tension within topics such as politics, religion, and race relations. These stories fuel hatred and confusion while people continue to live in fear. Yet through all this negative energy, many are delivering messages of wisdom and hope, encouraging positive change, and that's something I'm aiming to do. My name is Roger Brooks, and I'm the founder and host of American Real. I'm hopeful for our future, but we must be the change and not be a spectator in life, looking from the outside in. For as long as I could remember, I've been fascinated by people's stories. Stories speak to us, and since the beginning of time, the human race has prospered by passing down wisdom told through the essence of story. It's a way for people to aspire to become the hero they know they could be, seeing their higher self through the wisdom of others. What started out as a hobby has quickly turned into my life mission, and as I deliver a new guest each Sunday, I'll aim to prompt the questions you may be thinking, and through the power of listening, I'll allow the guest to speak and articulate their points of view in order to give you the headspace you need to realize your own hero's journey. We are one race. We are one people. Spread the word about American Real, and together let's make great stories go viral to inspire, enlighten, and empower those we love and the masses we hope to reach.
Celebrate your moment. Whatever it is that you are doing, whatever it is that you're creating, whatever it is that you just succeeded at, so if you're celebrating what you're currently doing and creating, you're creating more energy, you're creating more momentum, you're creating gratitude, you're creating love, right? You're creating a good, positive energy. And when you create that positive energy, it's like a boomerang. You know, you're sending it out there, and what's going to come back, right? So the more of that good energy that you send out into the world, the more that good energy is going to come back. You need to think about yourself first, and then you can give to everybody else, but not in a selfish manner. Like, there is a fine line. You know, it's okay to do for yourself. It's okay to take time to go for a long walk or be in solitude for 5 minutes. You know, if you've got a house full of kids, you know, you need that downtime.
This week on American Real, we bring you Michelle Stubbski, four-time author, business owner, and a spiritual self-empowerment coach. Michelle and I have a great and deep conversation as she talks about the effects of angels and how really she had a calling to write her first book. That's when she made a decision to change her life and really transform into the person she is today. Sit back, relax, you're gonna like this episode. It gets deep, so get ready with Michelle Stupski. American Real. I am Roger Brooks. My guest today is Michelle Stupski, author and spiritual self-empowerment coach. You are about ready to launch your fourth book, Angel's Love. Your spiritual journey began at an early age, but you truly understood your abilities after the publication of your first book, Never Alone, by Michelle Irene, in 2015, a book that includes over 50 true inspirational stories of moments with angels and how they guide us through our daily life. You have since published additional books and inspirational products, and you teach courses on the subject as well. You own your own store, we'll talk about that. In addition, you're a recent graduate of our Live Tribe, the 21-day challenge and experience. And Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We live in this community, and it's small, but yet there's people that I come across all the time, like yourself, that I never knew were here. Although, you know, your business is here, your children both have businesses that are here. So it's great to connect, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Same here. Same here. I have a lot to talk about.
Great. One thing I didn't learn until just recently, and if you don't mind, we could start there. As you mentioned, you were a gymnast for a lot of years.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? I know gymnasts especially train really hard.
Yes.
You know, when you think about the Olympics, I have some family and friends that their daughters have done that, so I know how intense it is.
Yes.
Tell us about how you got involved with that and how it really had an impact on your life.
I actually got involved at the Boys Club and Girls Club when I was 2 years old.
No kidding.
Yeah, my mom would go there for exercise classes and I would follow along, and the gymnastic coach there said to me, or said to my mom, you should enroll her in the gymnastic program. So she did, and then I eventually graduated up to some higher levels of gymnastics and started at a club out in Owego. And then before I knew it, I was back here in town, and so I was at 2 different clubs, 20 years of my life. At the age of 8, it began to be a 6-day-a-week practice, gone many weekends for competition, but there were so many things that gymnastics taught me about life that I've been able to carry through with me. And there's passion, setting goals, working hard, just to name a few.
Sure. The one thing that comes to mind for me when I think about gymnastics is balance.
Ah, yeah.
Is that something that you're taught, and do you see that also intertwining with life?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't just focus on your passion. There's other things that happen around you, like family, friends, social activities, as well as driving yourself and working hard. So you do have to keep a really good balance, or you're going to spiral out of control.
Mm-hmm. And how far did you take it?
I got a full scholarship for college.
Wow.
I did compete at the Olympic level, not in the Olympics, at the Olympic level for 1 year, and it was just way more than I really wanted to do. I mean, it was...
Why?
Because I would get out of school early. I would train from 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 o'clock at night, and then be gone on the weekends. And, I knew I wasn't going to be like one of the best at that level. So for my last year of high school, I decided to not pursue that and just kind of have an easy senior year. Unfortunately, at the Olympic Training Center that year during nationals, I dislocated my knee. And of course, I was afraid I was going to lose my scholarship, but I didn't. But I did begin to lose my passion for the competition part of the sport, because I realized that I really wasn't going to go to the level I wanted to go to. Mm-hmm. So.
And is it hard? I played baseball, so that's a sport, that I could relate to. And I remember at a certain point, I looked at the talent around me and I felt like, okay, I kind of reached my peak. Mm-hmm. Is that how you felt, that there was competition around you, that you just weren't good enough to go to that next level?
I think it was more my mindset as opposed to my talent.
Okay.
I think my talent, I could have gone to that level, but my mindset kept telling me no. It kept holding me back from performing certain tricks, fear started to come in, you know, fear of getting hurt, even before I dislocated my knee. Just, there was a blockage there of some sort, and now I kind of know it's just because I wasn't supposed to go to that next level. You know, I can understand it looking back now, but then in the same sense, you know, when you walk into a competitive arena, the same thing that you said, you know, you look around and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all these other competitors. I don't belong here. You know, and then you have to go, yes, I do.
Right.
Yes, I do. I got this. I might not be doing the hardest tricks out there, but what I do well. And that's how I feel about my life. I might not be doing the hardest things out there, but what I do well. And if I can't do it well, I'll either work harder at it or I'll let it go and move on to the next thing.
So let's talk about the obvious, which is you are a spiritual self-empowerment coach. What does that mean to people? That's such a incredible title.
I don't like putting labels on things, but for people to have a better understanding of what I do, I kind of did have to label it. Through the years of teaching people and using my books as a guideline, I have been able to see how my books and the words that have been given to me help people heal and help people move forward with their lives and help people find their passion. And when I wrote that first book, I never in a million years imagined that I would be where I am right now. I just followed the path that was given to me. I remember when I finished the first book on the laptop, I closed the laptop and I was like, holy crap, I just wrote a book.
What an achievement.
And then I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? But then I was like, wait, celebrate the success. You just wrote a book. That's success right there. Nothing else happens with this book. It doesn't matter. You sat down, you took the time, months and months and months on end, to write this book. And I do remember writing in the book that if I can just help one person see themselves in one of the stories and change their life for the better, then I know I've done my work. And I feel very blessed for that. And as life would have it, I've been able to really help a lot of other people heal. And I'm just always amazed and overwhelmed with blessings of love that I've been able to do what I do. And so for me, that's the self-empowerment end of it. And I guide you to finding out where your blocks are, where your fears are, what can we do to work through these fears, and where can we get you to where it is you want to go.
You say that this book changed you.
Yeah.
How?
It made me become a more loving, a more understanding person, a person full of compassion. Not that I wasn't those things before, but to truly embrace all of those feelings and just really look at somebody without judgment and understand that, you know what, there's a story behind them. There's a reason why they're saying what they're saying. There's a reason why they're doing what they're doing. And just knowing that whatever they're projecting outwards is not meant for me or somebody else to catch. It's just part of them and their story. And so in that aspect, it's changed me a lot. A lot of things have now just kind of begun to roll off my shoulders. I don't really let too much get to me. I mean, I still falter, you know, don't we all? But, and it's helped me heal me. There were a lot of things in my past that I felt broken inside. You know, I have a beautiful family. I have a wonderful husband. I have a beautiful house. I have a dog. I've got the world. But there was something missing, and that something was within me. You know, it was self-love that I just didn't recognize. So in that essence, the books have helped me heal. And then I can help others heal because of it.
So you mentioned the words came through you.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that.
So Obviously the books are about angels and spirit and the universe and the higher power, whatever that higher power is that you believe in. But there is a force of a higher power out there that works with us and works through us if we allow it to. And, you know, there's a lot of things in my books that I have written that I don't know where those words came from. But when I got done writing it and reread it, it was like, wow, that was good. And not the way I talk. So, you know, I really believe that there is a higher power that works through us. And when you allow it to, you can create an abundance of things that you want in your life when you work towards them.
Wow. It's great to hear you say this because I've been working on a novel for the past 7 years. And I just recently went back to read it start to finish, and my wife read it as well. Mm-hmm. And there's certain points in there where I don't remember writing it. I don't know where it came from, but I could totally relate in that, you know, there is this higher power, if you believe and you're open to it,
right,
that can allow you to express things that, you know, may come out more poetic than
right,
I would ever speak.
Right.
Right. So it's interesting.
So in the spirit world, we call that channeling. And so when somebody says that the higher power is working through you, basically you're channeling spirit. We're all energy, and our souls are energy. And when we pass, our energy actually leaves our body and goes into the spirit world. So the spirit world consists of soul energies. And when you see mediums and psychics, you know, give messages from loved ones, it's through their energy, because all of our experiences in life are energy, and we store them like a hard drive in our soul. And so when our soul passes, all those memories of the life that you lived here on earth go with you. And there's a lot of spiritual energy out there that will help you and guide you. And yes, it's your loved ones, but yes, there's also archangels, and yes, there's God, or Buddha, or the universe, whatever it is that you feel called to pray to. So with that energy, we can all intertwine and connect. And I mean, everything in this room came from a thought, you know, so that's energy. We can create things with our energy through our thoughts. And that's where manifesting comes into play. It starts with a thought.
So what do you say to the naysayers that are listening, that they say that's crazy, or the scientists that say, no way? Because it just seems to be this dichotomy of one way or the other, right?
Right.
And I think it's great to be open to this kind of thing. But you're in it day to day. So how do people approach you about that and say, no way? And
not as much as they used to. You would be surprised at how many people, once you start talking, that kind of go, oh, huh. But for the big naysayers, I typically, I just kind of let them do their thing, let them believe what they want to believe, but I feel like they don't truly believe for a number of reasons. One, lack of knowledge. Two, they're fearful, right? Because if there really is a higher power that is serving us, then you have to take a good look at yourself. And that can be really hard for some people. They don't want to face some of the things that they've done in their past. They don't want to face who they truly are being at the moment. So for me, I just send them some love, you know, quietly within myself, and hope that someday they'll see a sign that, you know what, there is the possibility. And that's really where my teaching begins, is I just like to open that door for people to see the possibility that there might be something on the other side. And even for just a moment, if they believe, then I've done my job.
Because you talk about energy, I read and observe and see that people are at different levels in their thoughts, right? And where they might not have been open to something years ago, maybe they're more open to it today.
Yeah.
We see this as people age,
Yeah.
Even in our own families. Like, wow, you know, Uncle Bill never thought that way before. Is that something that's
It's natural.
natural?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's a natural progression of life. What's beautiful about the world right now is that being spiritual is cool, where before it was kind of woo-woo, kind of weird. So younger people are more open to it now. I know people in my family that were definitely not believers, just from hanging around and listening to me talk, have become believers and have begun to experience things on their own. And so when you do open up that door and you do begin to see a sign or understand that, wait, why was that person placed in my path? Like, that person just helped me. There's a connection there. Where did that come from? How did that fall in my lap at that time? When you start to see those things, you begin to awaken your senses. And with each awakening comes a stronger sense of awareness. And so it just kind of grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And until you really realize that, wow, you know, this power is in my hand to create greatness. But it has to come from a place of love. If it's not coming from a place of love, it's not going to work.
That's the key.
Yeah. It's got to be, it can't be for selfish reasons. You know, it's got to be love-based, because love is the greatest power of all.
And that's a law of life, right?
It is.
I mean, there's no, it's inflexible.
I didn't make that up.
Right, it's inflexible.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And it's true. And the more you love and the more you begin to live your life from a place of gratitude, and not just saying you're thankful for this and you're thankful for that, but really feeling the blessings of everything you have in life. Everybody has something to be blessed about, no matter how small it is. You know, it's a blessing. And if you can really embrace that blessing, you can create that process of truly loving life and starting that swirl of energy. You know, that energy of love is contagious. And I remember when after my first book and my first couple of book signings, I had a couple people say to me, "Gosh, you seem so different." And I was like, "'Cause I am. I get it. You know, I finally get it. I taught it to my kids, my husband and I, when they were young. We taught it to them, but I didn't, didn't fully embrace that whole blessings of gratitude. And, you know, I used to think that I wasn't worthy of good things. Like, why? And I'm not alone in that.
Oh, I would say it's,
you know, it's a
vast
universal,
majority, yes.
Because that's the way we're brought up as a society. If you think about yourself, you're selfish. When in reality, you need to think about yourself first, and then you can give to everybody else.
Right.
But not in a selfish manner.
Right.
Like, there is a fine line. You know, it's okay to do for yourself. It's okay to take time to go for a long walk or be in solitude for 5 minutes. You know, if you've got a house full of kids, you know, you need that downtime. You know, my parents always took my kids every Wednesday when they were younger and not in school, so I could have a free day to myself. And I would always jam it up with grocery shopping and laundry and cleaning the house, and by the time I would get them at 5 o'clock, I'm exhausted. And my dad would always say to me, "You should be soaking in the tub eating bonbons." And I always thought he was joking, and now I get it.
Yeah.
Like, no, he got it. He was one of my biggest spiritual teachers. Yeah, I should have been soaking in the tub eating bonbons and just relaxing for a few minutes to just gather myself, get myself back together to create that balance so that I can give more love to the kids instead of giving frustration and exhaustion, and those don't do anybody any good.
Right. You mentioned signs earlier. Can you talk about signs, what they mean, being aware? You know, what are signs?
Some of the most common signs, if you're an angel believer. We'll start with that. Some of the most common signs are finding a feather or coins or words on license plates. For example, I got word, was it a year ago, that I was being honored at a retreat out in Missouri, and being honored for my work, my angelic work to humanity. And I was so excited and feeling blessed, and my husband and I were on a trip, and I got this call when we had stopped to get some coffee, and we get in the car, and we stop at a stoplight, and my husband says, look, the license plate right in front of me says, I am blessed.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a sign from above that you're on the right path, that they see that you're understanding your blessings. And signs like that, you know, once you begin to open yourself up to them, will just come in front of you day after day after day after day. So, and when they're not coming in front of you, that typically means that you're not aligned and that you need to realign. You need to check your balance and get yourself back on track again. Mm. So there's so many different signs out there, but those are the easiest ones and the most recognizable. And if you see a feather or you see a coin and you pick it up and you show love and gratitude for the gift, then you just go on your merry way. And eventually you'll begin to be like, oh, that's from so-and-so. Because whoever pops into your head immediately, that's, you know, for instance, my dad used to collect dimes. And I remember as a kid, those tin cigar,
yes.
Yeah, they're the perfect size for dimes. So most people take their change and throw it into a jar. Well, he would take the dimes out and put them in there just for backup money. And so he leaves me dimes in the oddest places. And a quick story about that is just a few months ago, I walked into my store at the mall, and in my display area were 2 dimes sitting right next to each other. And I thought, oh, thanks, Dad. And then I was like, I started second guessing it. I started thinking about it. I was like, well, maybe it was one of my students just leaving me some dimes to say, you know, thank you, blah, 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 blah. 2 hours later, I get a text message from my aunt with a picture asking, what does it mean when you find 2 dimes? Yeah. So, and that was my dad's sister, who is my godmother. So that right away was my angels confirming to me and reassuring me that my first thought was correct, but also that my dad and I are keeping us in contact with each other, because it made her text me to say hello and stay in touch with each other. So it was just a little nudge from up above to check in with each other.
Yeah. What about numbers?
Numbers are huge. People are really aware of, like 1111 is a big one.
Yeah.
People always say, oh, 1111, make a wish. But that is really a sign that Spirit is with you, or you're on the right path. 444.
That's mine.
Yeah, 444 is a big angelic sign. That is that, you know, your team of angels is behind you. They're working hard for you to do what it is that you are trying to do, because they put that passion and that purpose in your heart for you to move forward with. And so, yeah, it's just a backing of your angels. I see 555 once in a while, which is a number, and I know it's from my mom, because she defected from Germany on May 5th, 1955.
Wow,
5555. Wow. So just the other day I saw 5555, or 5:55 in the morning, and then I saw 5:55 in the afternoon.
Same day.
Yeah. So you can't sit and watch the clock.
Right.
Like if you look at it and it's 11:10, you can't be like,
right, wait.
you know, it's got to be just a random,
Sure.
you look at the clock and the numbers are the same. But then you might see those names in succession at other places too. You know, you might cash out at a register somewhere and your change is 444. So, you know, just pay attention to those and just show the gratitude.
Right.
You know, when that sign happens, embrace it, thank somebody above, whoever it is you need to thank, and just go about your day.
That's great.
But you're creating that energy flow, which is allowing more of what's around you to come into you.
What's neat is I have a group of friends that just coincidentally, but I don't believe in coincidence, but we've all kind of stumbled onto this around the same time. So
Yeah.
very often I'll receive a text message from one of them with a 444 or a 111, you know, and or a 222, whatever it may be. So it's just neat that other people within my peer group, if you will,
Right.
are onto the same thing, which
Yeah.
it's good. You know, I think it's good. It's like you said, to show the gratitude for whatever it may be that day, and just to, you know, be open to it and to be able to reflect and say, you know,
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
And what's beautiful about that too is it takes one person in a group of people to be open to it and to allow that energy to work with them, because it's contagious.
Yeah, and I thought about that with you when you were talking about your family, and then
Yeah.
people asking, "You've changed."
Yeah.
Yes, I have. This is
Yeah.
me. I found who I really am. And that was the next question I had for you is, and it's somewhat related to our live tribe, in a sense that it's hard to go inside, right? It's hard to,
At first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I'm saying for the average person.
Yeah, it is.
It's really difficult because we're not used to it.
Yeah.
We're not taught that. Spending time alone, you know, looking in a mirror, just spending time in solitude, thinking about things that are important and that really matter and things we may want to change or transform.
Yeah. And change is hard for people too. Change is difficult. But once you do begin to take a step into change and you see how it opens yourself up and you see how it takes the weight off of your shoulders. You know, I mean, all that negative energy, all those negative things that we say to ourselves, because let's be honest, not many people talk good about themselves.
Right.
Right? I mean, if somebody gives you a compliment, are you one to just go, "Oh, thank you"?
Right.
Or are you like, "Oh, this old thing, you know, oh gosh, I need to lose a little around the waist," or, you know, we always have to add that little bit of negative talk in there instead of just allowing that gratitude for what that person's saying to you to come in. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of forgot where we were at. Went off on a tangent there.
But that's okay. But, you know, why is it because of the way we're raised? Why,
Yeah.
you know, I would say the majority of the people that I know and have grown up with and family and friends, everyone is like that. And it's very rare that you give someone a compliment and they accept it. And when it happens, you know, it's nice
Yeah.
when people accept that compliment.
It is nice. I did a lot of soul searching, obviously, through the years, and I tried to figure out where that all came from for me. And it didn't come from my parents because they were always very encouraging. They were always like, "You can do whatever you put your mind to." But then there were also moments in my life growing up as a kid where, you know, if you had a problem, it was kind of shrugged off as like, "That's not a real problem." So now what you're telling me is that what I have to say doesn't matter, or what I'm feeling is being wiped out, like it's not important. But I recently discovered that my feeling of not having self-worth came from my upbringing in my organized religion. And you know, I don't want to get too far into that because, you know, I grew up Catholic, and I'm proud of that. I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore because I just feel like my beliefs have evolved and changed. And but it was at Easter service at a Methodist church when the minister had said something about, you know, in other churches, you're told you're not worthy of receiving the bread and the blood of Christ. He says, "But here we welcome all of you. You're all worthy." And the floodgates just opened. My husband's like, "You okay?" And my nephew's like, "Oh my gosh, Aunt Michelle's crying." You know, it was just like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Like it just stabbed me in the heart. I was like, all those years of going to church every Sunday, being told, "You're not worthy. You're not worthy." And as a child, I mean, I understand now like what they're saying, but as a child, that's all you hear. You know, so, and society puts a lot of those
Labels
conditions and labels
yeah.
on us as well. And gymnastics did it too. You know, I just recently realized that gymnastics, as much as I always thought it did all this greatness for me, I realized it did a lot of negative things for me as well. You know, the constant being judged, right? You go into a competition, you've got 2 judges sitting there at each event, and they're marking you off, and it's all what they think. It's not necessarily really how good of a performer you are.
Sure.
It's 2 people's opinions
Right.
of you. And then they take that judgment, they turn it into a score, and then they put you into placement, right? And if you don't win, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of that.
Which, in a sense, is artificial, right? Because
Yeah.
it's their opinion, like you said.
Yeah,
Where if it was 2 different judges, you could have been
yeah,
the star that day.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Interesting.
And my daughter was a big dancer for a while, and that's when it really hit me, the whole judgment thing, because I would see her perform, and being a gymnast and also being a gymnastic official and really understanding, you know, form and all that good stuff, I would watch her performance and then I would see her score. And I would be like, I don't know what they're looking for, but you got to understand, it's 2 people, it's 3 people, it's their opinion.
Right. But for a child, too,
It's hard.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of children, what do you recommend on, you know, I'm just thinking of examples that other people may be thinking of too as they're listening. Like if one of my kids says something about themselves that's negative, I'd like to correct them at the moment and say, no, you know, you are good enough, or don't talk down about yourself. Is that the right thing to do?
That, or you can ask them why. Why do you feel that way? You know, why do you think that you're not smart enough? Why do you think you're not good enough? Find out where their story's coming from, right? So then you can correct the story. You know, and I'm sorry you feel that way. However, this is how I see you. And turn that negative into a positive and just continue to reinforce it. But you have to also be mindful not to continually praise them for everything, because you are going to fall in life. You are going to make mistakes.
Right.
Stuff's going to happen. You know, you might go to work and your boss is not going to like you, but you're going to have to figure out a way to deal with it. Because really it's not you that he doesn't like, but, you know, like that bully in school. It's not really so much that bully doesn't like you per se, that bully doesn't like himself. And when you can get your children to understand that, then they can learn how to kind of put up those protective forces around themselves to not allow that negative energy to influx into who they truly are.
Yeah, I like that. So going back to your book, there's 50 stories in your first book?
The first book has over 50 stories.
And can you talk about that? Are they stories that you came up with? Are they actual stories?
They're all true stories.
They're all true stories.
Yep. Many of them are my own, but while I was writing the first book and I started talking to people about what I was doing, people started to come to me with their stories. And that was another aha moment for me about opening up and sharing your story. I actually had a friend of mine say, aren't you nervous about putting yourself out there like that and telling people your truths and you know, and I was like, I never thought about it, but no, like I was meant to do this. And if I don't share my story and allow somebody to see themselves in the stories, then how are they going to heal, right? How are they going to be able to make that change to better themselves? And so, I mean, there's stories in there that, for instance, the way the book came about was I was on vacation in Florida, and we were in the store Barnes & Noble, and I've read a little bit about spirituality and mediumship and angels and all that kind of stuff, but I really hadn't dabbled in it for a while, and I was starting to feel really stuck in my life because my daughter was in college, and she's the youngest, and I was like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I had a handbag business that wasn't going the way I wanted to, even though I had been picked up by QVC and I was like, yay, I've made it, you know, this is going to be great. You know, no, it wasn't fulfilling me inside. So long story short, I picked up a book by John Edward, and the first page I opened it to said something about learning to connect with tarot cards is one of the easiest ways. And I was like, oh my God, tarot cards, you know, growing up Catholic, that's like kind of evil. So I was like, all right, well, if John Edward says it's okay, I'll, you know. So I went to pick up the tarot cards, and I literally hear the books out loud, write the book. And I kind of looked around me, there's nobody around. I took a few steps back, check out the next row, there's nobody around. I'm like, okay, write the book. I had an idea of writing a book about 10 years earlier about angels, but I put it aside because the kids were in school and I didn't want them to be made fun of, you know, because your mom talks to angels, blah, blah, blah. So a week later, I'm on the set of Angels Among Us, which was a TLC production with a local medium. Her name is Rosie Sapiro. I don't know if you've heard of her or not. And she gave me a reading, and my dad and my mom both came through at different times, and she's kind of, are you writing a book? Like, they're doing this. And I'm like, no, I'm not writing a book, you know. And towards the end of it, she's like, whatever book it is, you need to write the book. Like, Spirit is telling me to tell you to write this book. So I told her what I wanted to do, and she's like, there it is. So I set out and I did it, and I made sure it was published the month and the year that I turned 50, wow, because it was a new chapter in my life. But I didn't know where it was going to take me.
How long did it take you?
Let's see. I met Rosie in July. The book came out the following May.
Wow. So
I just hunkered down and, you know, is it the most perfect book? No. Are there spelling errors? Yeah, but you know what? I'm perfectly imperfect. You know what? I don't have to go for the perfect 10. It's not about the grammar. It's not about all that stuff. It's about the message. And for people that criticize it for the latter, whatever. Yeah. You're missing the point.
Good
you know?
For you.
So.
Yeah, we take that same stance here. You know, we put an episode out every week. They're not perfect.
Yeah.
You know, we're having a conversation, but we have to continue to move forward. We have to publish. So that's the one thing I learned early on with everything, really, that if you wait for it to be perfect, it'll never be perfect.
That's right.
So it's great to hear you say that. And now you've written several books, but your newest is called Angel's Love.
Yeah.
And this will be out very soon in October, is that correct?
Yes. Angel's Love is, again, a compilation of stories. Now that I have a bigger following on social media and a bigger web presence, I've been able to gather more stories from other people. And it's about those moments in your life where people, places, things are placed in front of you without understanding why, but knowing that there's a greater force behind it all. And I call that your angel's love. And when you follow the path of your angel's love, you allow yourself to follow the path to find the self-love within you and change your life that way. So that's what that's about.
Incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
And how long have you been working on that?
I started Angel's Love probably around January, December. But I mean, I gather stories all the time. People tell me stories. I just recently went to a woman's house. She's 89 years old, and she just wanted to share her stories with me. And as I'm driving there, I'm thinking, this is what it's about. Yeah. This is what it's about, sharing these stories and allowing this 89-year-old woman to truly, for the first time in her life, understand that these happenings really were of a higher power, even though people told her that they weren't. She still somewhat believed in her heart that they were, and she just wanted the reassurance that, you know, there is life after death, and she will see her husband again, and And her stories are incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
How important is it for us to find our voice, to share our story? That's what American Real is about.
Yeah.
Everyone has a story is our tagline. I am working tirelessly to try to get people to see that, so they could value their own voice and share their own story. And it sounds like you're doing very similar work.
Yeah, I actually have an event in October. It's called Rise to Shine, and it's about people finding the stories within themselves. Because we all have a story, like you said. And those stories shape who we are. And sometimes they shape us to be people we don't want to be. So once we realize that what we're doing right now is coming from something in our past, and we can understand what that past story is. Like, it's a fisherman's story, right? Somebody said one thing to you when you were a child, and every time you tell that story, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you carry that story with you, and then it becomes the truth, right? But it doesn't become the true you. So you begin just living that person that you've convinced yourself for the last however many years that that's who you are. So by finding your story, you can find your truth, and you can understand yourself better. You can understand why you do what you do, why you say what you say, and you can heal it, and you can change it. And you can help somebody else heal by sharing that story, because it's not just about you. Letting your light shine is about shining it onto others so that they can see the light, right, within themselves. And then once they see the light within themselves, they begin to shine, and people go, oh my gosh, you seem so different, what are you doing? And they just shine their light on them, and then they, and it just becomes this whole domino effect. And so we can heal the world one person at a time, truly, by starting with yourself.
So at these events, how are you helping people realize this? How do they begin? For someone out there that has no idea where to start.
Well, at the event itself, I'll talk about, beginning to see the signs. And then somebody goes, I find feathers, or that's happened to me, right? So now their wheels are turning, their door is opening, and they're allowing that energy to come through. And then we'll do some guided meditations, and which will basically, when you're meditating and you're closing your eyes, you're doing a brain scan. And things are going to start to pop up that you haven't thought about in years. I mean, meditation is so powerful. I never was a true meditator until the last couple years. Like, once in a while I would do it just to try to relax or, calm myself down, but I never really understood meditating and the power of it. And so once you find your story, then you just begin to understand. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. That's why it's an all-day event, because I can't just be like, oh, here's your story. Oh, great. Too bad for you. See ya. So I got to help them figure out what they can do to continue to heal that. And it's not a one-day change. It'll be a progression of things that took place. I have a lot of students that I work with on a consistent basis, and some of them, it's taken them 1.5 years to truly heal and feel like all the work they've done has been for good. And it's beautiful to see. I have one woman who, when she first came to one of my classes, we were talking about being happy, and she looks at me and she goes, I can't genuinely say the word happy in a sentence. She goes, it's just too hard for me to say that word. And she was ready to end her marriage. And I was like, all right, let's just one step at a time, And I allowed her to feel her feelings and to say the things that she needed to say and all that. And 1 year later, she's like, you know what? I'm starting to believe that we might be able to make this work.
Wow.
And she is happy, and she smiles, and she laughs. And it was like 6 months in, she said, I can say I'm happy. She goes, I really feel good about myself.
That's great.
So it's not me doing the work, it's me translating from spirit, right? I mean, this is nothing new. All these things that I do, it really isn't anything new. It's just the format that I've found that has worked for me that is working for others. And I just kind of guide you through the process, and, just the work's up to you. Like anything else in life. Nothing is handed to you easily, ever.
That's for sure. So Live Tribe.
Yes.
You went through the 21-day
I did.
challenge and experience.
I did.
What do you think about it? And do you feel that has a greater purpose for a bigger audience? Because right now
Absolutely.
it's just starting, and we're tweaking, we're trying to figure it out. But just from your standpoint, what was your experience like?
I loved it, but I, also was already comfortable going ahead and going live because I had already done some healing work for myself. And I think a lot of people just think, oh, I can't do that, But what's great about it is it doesn't matter how you look, what you say. It just matters that you're getting on there and you're doing it, and you have to do it 21 days in a row, and you're trying to create a habit. And there were some days where I was traveling and I was just like, oh my gosh, I really don't. And I was like, all right, no, you got this, you committed, let's do this. And I'd get on and do it, and I'd be done, and I'd feel so good because I knew I had committed to it, and I felt good just for accomplishing it.
Yes.
So there's so much that you can get out of it, whether you're trying to get more comfortable for being in front of the camera, whether you're trying to just be committed to something and fulfill that commitment, whether you're trying to create a habit or better yourself so that you can go on to your followers and be in front of the camera more for them and feel comfortable. So I think what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing, and I try to encourage other people, even if they're not in a business. Some people think you have to do it because you have a business or you're a spiritual leader or what have you, but no. Talk about your cooking, talk about your kids. Somebody's going to learn from something that it is that you're saying. And to me, that's what it's about. It's about teaching other people to see themselves and to be better.
Right. So day, say 4 or 5 or 6, when people may be feeling, why am I here? This is dumb. Why am I doing this? What do you say to those people who are about ready to quit?
Never quit. You committed. You signed up. You committed to the 21 days. Just do it. In those moments that it's tough, that is when the breakthrough is going to come through. When you feel like this is dumb, this is stupid, I don't want to do this anymore, that's when you step outside of your box. That's when you regain your power. Because now it's not uncomfortable anymore.
Right.
So when it's uncomfortable, power through.
Yeah. Awesome. Michelle, last month you posted a quote on Facebook by Abraham Hicks. And it said, feel appreciation for what is and eagerness for what is coming.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
That just means, celebrate your moment. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're creating, whatever it is that you just succeeded at, like right now, I'm on American Live Drive, right? Let's celebrate this and anticipate what's gonna come next, right? So if you're celebrating what you're currently doing and creating, you're creating more energy, you're creating more momentum, you're creating gratitude, you're creating love, right? You're creating a good, positive energy. And when you create that positive energy, it's like a boomerang. You're sending it out there, and what's going to come back, right? So the more of that good energy that you send out into the world, the more that good energy is going to come back. It's karma, and karma goes both ways. Typically, karma has a bad rap. People say, oh, karma will get them, and it's usually used in a negative way. But karma is also positive, and it's the law of attraction. It's the universal law of vibration. It's, again, nothing new. It's just truly believing in it and living it.
Are you optimistic about the future?
Always. How can you not be, right? Like, if you want to live happy, you have to be optimistic about the future. You create your own happiness. Happiness is your choice. So no matter what's going on in this world, which we don't want to get into any of that, and whatever's happening around you, there's still something to be grateful for. There's always a silver lining. You know, even in the darkest of times, light can go into dark, and light can make the darkness brighter. So live in the light, make your own happiness.
Let's talk about angels.
Okay.
You've mentioned them several times.
Yes.
Your books, the signs, energy. And again, I'm just trying to put myself in the position of the average person listening. Right. Okay, so what are angels? And then what are archangels? So there's different levels.
Right.
Can you try to sum this up for us?
Typically when somebody asks me that question, I tell them that there are an array of angels out there. And the term angels is used very lightly in the way that I write about angels, because it's difficult when you're writing to, every time you say angel, say spirit, spirit guide, God, Buddha, higher power, universe. To me, the angels are messengers of God, and they are here to help you do God's work. And God's work is to teach us all how to love to the fullest and how to spread that love with everybody else around. That's our life purpose, is to love to the fullest. And what you do in the meantime to create it all, you know, that's part of your choice, that's part of your free will. So, you know, angels are there to guide you, and they will protect you. I mean, you hear miraculous stories of protection from angels. And they are there to comfort you. So you can be touched by an angel, literally. Like, you can feel the warmth and the love of a hug from an angel if you allow that into your life. So some people say that angels can't be your loved ones, that they're more of a guardian angel type of thing. But an angel's an angel, right? So whatever it is that, I mean, why do we have to put a meaning behind it all? Why, you know, why you get into a plane, you know it's going to fly from point A to point B, but you don't know everything that goes on in those controls. You don't know everything that's happening in that engine, right? You don't know everything that's happening on the ground, but you trust it. So the whole thing with the spiritual world, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have labels for everything. You don't have to know the name of everything in order to understand it, for it to work. You just have to trust that it is and allow it to come into your life. And then if you want to learn all the different types of angels, all the archangels, which are the, you know, closest thing to God that you can get, then go ahead and research it. But to get into a big, dark discussion on the different types of angels, we would be here for hours. So I like to just keep it general and easy, especially for the naysayers that don't believe, because when it becomes too confusing and too much, you just close the book and go, I'm done.
Yeah. Interesting. What does universal connection mean to you?
Universal connection is we're all connected. You know, we are connected to each other. We are connected to God. We are connected to the universe. We are each other. And, you know, when somebody else hurts or falters, you hurt as well. When somebody else loves, you love as well. And that's why one person at a time, you know, allowing what you're learning to project onto somebody else can help change the world.
Do you feel that, I listen to Deepak Chopra pretty regularly, and he'll often say things like, you know, if you want to give love to a single person or all people in the world, just think it and let it go, and it will be. Do you believe that?
Absolutely. I do it all the time. I'll be driving down the street and I'll see, you know, I saw a woman walking down the street the other day who had severe anorexia, and I just was like, oh my gosh, angels pick her up, send her some love, give her some love, show her that love within herself. Where before I would be very judgmental and be like, oh, look at that girl, you know, too bad for her. Now I'm like, oh, not that I feel sorry, but I'm just like let's heal her. Let's do something. I know there's a higher power out there. You know, they've been working in my favor my whole entire life. So let's share that a little bit. Let's give it to someone else.
How hard is it to practice non-judgment? And how important is it to practice non-judgment?
That's tough. We all judge. You know, and you grow up with religious classes saying to judge is to be judged. So I think that's one of the best ways to stop yourself, because if you're judging somebody, somebody else is probably judging you. And do you want to be judged? Right? Yeah. No, I don't want to be judged. I mean, just take it or leave it. Either you like me or you don't, you know, but don't judge me. It's difficult. The best thing I can tell you to do is that when you find yourself judging somebody, just like forgive yourself for it. Just go, okay, that was a judgment. Forgive yourself for judging. And try to move forward and try not to do it as much, because it's very easy to judge. And some people feel like they get power from judging others, but really when you're judging somebody else, it might be a reflection of something that you're lacking. And so if you're judging, turn it around and be like, wait, why am I judging this person? Why do I not like their clothing, right? Why am I making fun of this person? Or whatever it might be. I mean, those are all judgments. We judge thousands of times during the day without even realizing it. But once you can even cut it in half, you become a better person.
And again, it's that awareness, right?
It is, yeah.
And gossip would be included in that as well.
Gossip is totally... So, and there's a fine line between gossip and like, okay, let's say somebody tells you something and you tell it to another person. You might just be trying to process it to better understand, you know, what is being said or why it's being said. I know as women we have to understand everything. You know, we have to talk things till we're blue in the face. And but to carry on about it and to keep spreading it, and especially if it's a negative thing and it's going to cause harm to somebody if they were to find out that you were talking about it, you know, that's when you get into trouble.
How should one handle when someone is gossiping to them? You know, how do you process that where you could let the other person know that you don't want to participate in that type of behavior or that type of gossip, especially if it's been going on for a long time, and now you say, okay, as of today, I'm going to do my best not to judge and not to gossip, but then naturally it just comes into our life. So do you have any tips on how to help someone in that regard?
Yeah, definitely. Allow the person to speak and then turn it around and be like, well, gee, why do you think that person's going through that right now? You know, we're not in their shoes. So try to come from a place of compassion and understanding, and maybe allow that person that's doing the gossiping and spreading rumors or whatever to maybe see it from a different perspective. And, you know, take it from there. I mean, you can't do more than that. Sometimes you can't just go, you know, I'm done. I don't want to hear it. You know, not now, not today. Allow that person to speak and just talk with them. Don't agree with what they're saying, but...
And don't dismiss.
And don't dismiss them, right.
But prompt those questions.
Yeah,
where
definitely.
Maybe they'll start to think about it.
Yeah, and be like, oh gosh, you know, maybe
Right.
I never looked at it that way. That's what I get a lot. I never thought about it that way. Because a lot of us are one perspective. You know,
Right.
we think in one way and one way only. And there's many reasons why people are the way they are.
So if you have that approach, you're honoring yourself by not participating in the gossip, and you're actually helping the other person.
Exactly. You're shining your light,
Yeah.
right? You're spreading your love. You're coming from a place of love,
Love. Right.
and understanding.
Right.
Of course, easier said than done.
Of course.
I mean, I still struggle with it too, you know. Even my students, you know, I'll tell them, oh, I'm having a hard time with this or that. And they're like, really? You? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing process.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it is, and it's a daily practice.
It is. But just like brushing your teeth, right? You've been doing it since you were a kid. It's a habit.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you continue working from this different place of love or perspective or whatever it is, the more you're conscious of it, the more it just becomes a way of living, and it's your new habit.
Right. That's what's great, and you could start to change today.
Yeah, exactly. This minute. Don't wait till January 1st.
That's right.
Start right now.
That's right. You seem to have a lot of joy in helping others.
I do.
Can you expand on that? What level of joy do you receive?
I don't know. It's funny because as a kid, I always knew I wanted to help people. I just never knew how I was going to do that. I always thought if I won the lottery, I would give away to charities and help underprivileged families that way. And then I saw, you know, my husband helping kids because he coached travel ball, and he helped a lot of kids get scholarships to college and taught them a lot about life, and he's always just very motivational. And then my son started his business, and I saw him helping people, and I'm like, ugh, you know, like, what am I supposed to do? And it was all about timing. But once, you know, the whole process began, it's a euphoric place of bliss. Like I don't know how to explain the joy that it gives me. And I truly love to watch people succeed. You know, and that's part of the reason why Shop 607 came into play. It was helping other businesses grow their business. You know, an opportunity that when I first started my handbag business in 2004, I would have loved to have had, you know, and here, like some of our vendors that we have in the store, for instance, Bodhi Candle, they started off doing a trunk show for us the very first year with a candle. That was it. They had like maybe 5 or 6 scents, and that was their only product line. And now they have a 10 by 14 space with, I can't even tell you how many products that they've introduced, and they're wholesaling out to other stores now, and they're growing, and that just warms my heart. You know, it's not a competition in the store. It's about empowering each other and helping each other. Because isn't that what we're here to do?
Right.
Right? We're not here to pound each other down. We're here to lift each other up.
And that's life. That's what I was thinking as you said that. Like,
yeah.
Life is not a competition.
Yeah.
But we're programmed by society for it to be that.
Yeah.
So your business, can you talk a little bit more about that? It sounds very interesting how you have it set up. There's different vendors within the store.
Yeah.
But is there one checkout? How does
There's
that work?
one checkout,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been able through the years to just we all share in the hours of the stores. We don't have any employees, so we all have a stake in it.
All the owners.
All the owners take turns working the hours in the store. So we share in the rent, we share in the hours, and we know each other's product lines, and we're not afraid to sell each other's products either. Where some co-ops, you know, it might be about their product and their product only.
Right. Again, that competition.
Right,
yeah.
right. And, you know, there has been a lot of static through the years of growth on, well, this person has this and I want to bring this in. And I was like, if you go into a drugstore, you'll find 10 different lip balms. And guess what? They're all successful.
Right.
Because this customer might like this lip balm and that customer might like that one.
Giving people choice.
Yeah, and it's better for your product to have a choice. You know, it's not a competition. It's, you know, so we've all just really come together and have grown. You know, we've become a family, and that's what's really incredible.
And it seems quite rare, and you would know a lot better than me. Are there a lot of businesses this around the country, or is it
Yeah.
unique?
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
it's nothing new. And I don't really think we've got any bigger twist on it than anybody else. I think just the energy of what we put into our products and the energy of our positivity in the store, I think is one of the things that helps make it successful, for sure. We have people that walk in and just go, I'm just here for the energy fix. Because they feel when they walk in, you know, it hits them. They're just like, and I've had people walk into the store that go, oh, I never come into stores like this, but I was drawn to it. And then they're standing in front of my books. And they're like, oh, angels, what's this? And then they leave buying my book, you know, because they were guided.
Sure.
You know, I've had a lot of people come and read my book and go, this is exactly what I needed at this time in my life. Thank you so much.
Wow.
So, and that, again, that's that force guiding that person to what it is that they need. And I say that every day when I get out of bed. You know, I thank God for another day to live, to breathe, to do it all over again, to be better. And then I ask them, what miracles will you have me perform today? And I don't mean like miracles of, you know, great abundance, but when you're coming from a place of love and light, you create miracles. Miracles are created from love.
And several could happen throughout the day.
Absolutely. Just little things,
Right.
you know, just maybe something that I said today sparked something within you, right? That's a miracle because now you've changed your way of thinking
Right.
because of it. So I just, you know, I just guide me. Just give me the words I need to say to whomever needs to hear it.
Well, I could see why you're so happy. And, you know, you found it within yourself.
Yeah.
Not from outside
Yes.
sources, right?
Yes.
And let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
And we talked, I think off camera, we talked a little bit about the influence of television.
Yeah.
Are those the types of things that come to mind when I reference outside sources?
Really what comes to mind are like materialistic things or people, right? People will think to themselves, well, I'll be happy when I find the right house. I'll be happy when I find the right spouse. Oh, that rhymes. I'll be happy when this happens or when that happens. And sure, those things will bring you temporary happiness, but the everyday, moment-to-moment happiness that people are really striving for comes within them. And being grateful for the house they already have. It doesn't mean that they can't want for a nicer house, a bigger house, a different house. You can still want for that. And if it's in the cards, so to speak, for you, you know, you can get that. You can help manifest that. So looking for happiness outside on the exterior is typically only a temporary thing. Look at celebrities, right? They look like they have everything because they've got so much money. They've got the money, the house, the cars, the girls, the men, whatever it is, you know, that they're going after, but yet they still struggle with drugs. They still struggle with alcoholism. They still commit suicide because they're not truly happy with themselves inside for whatever reason.
So if we were to have sat down before you wrote this book, because it sounds to me like you're a different person
Yeah.
today, completely.
Yeah.
What would we have been talking about?
That's an interesting question. Just, right before I wrote the book, I was very lost. I was very lost as a person. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years, even though I had a lot of little home businesses just to kind of occupy my mind a little bit. But somewhere in the process, I really lost, or maybe I didn't even know who I truly was before I had kids. That just kind of came to me. Because actually, ever since gymnastics was out of my life, I mean, for 20 years of your life, that was my influence. I was Michelle, the gymnast, you know. I had, you know, I was in the paper every weekend. I traveled almost every weekend. It was almost like a celebrity type life, right? And when that was done and over with, and I struggled in college for a number of reasons, I became very lost, and I didn't have anything to replace that love for gymnastics. You know, I met my husband, I fell in love, but it's a different type of love. So yeah, wow, that's kind of a deep question there. It wasn't really so much that I got lost as a stay-at-home mom. I was not really sure of myself before that. Interesting.
And I think a lot of people could relate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you have any words of encouragement for people that's maybe lost right now? Like they don't know their worth, they don't know their life mission. I found American Real. You asked me. I don't know why, but it just happened. But I feel like this is my purpose.
Right.
But I know there's so many people out there struggling.
Yeah.
What's my purpose? What do I do? Is it just being open? Is it being aware? I mean, what advice do you have?
It's those things for sure. But what are you passionate about? Think back to when you were a child and what made you happy, right? Running through the puddles. You know, I just did that with my granddaughter the other day. It was raining out and I said, we ran up and down the street, got into the puddles, and we just had a great time. And I'm thinking to myself, she's 1.5 years. She knows what makes her happy, and she follows that. And, you know, that's how I started designing handbags. I always wanted to be a fashion designer. I wanted to go to FIT, but they didn't have a gymnastic team. So I had to go to a school where I could get a scholarship because that's where I was doing all those years of gymnastics for. And I didn't want to let my parents down. So I wasn't doing what was right for me. I was doing right for what I thought everybody else wanted me to do. So, and I knew I couldn't be a fashion designer in Binghamton, but I could create handbags and sell them, and they were marketable. And so but that led, and the funny thing about the handbags too is that I would sew a little angel on the corner of each handbag because I thought maybe that was the way I could let people know, you know, that somebody's always with you, you're never alone. And that's where the title of my first book came from, because I wanted people to know you're never alone. No matter how lonely you feel, you're never alone. And so the bags kind of began into the journey of the store at the mall, and then the books started to happen. And looking back now, I know the whole purpose of the books, or the store, was the books and getting the message out.
The outlet.
Yeah. Yeah. So look into your childhood. What made you happy? Start doing something that you're passionate about. You know, that's my son's business. He loves strength and conditioning. He loves helping people. And he's made a happy business out of it. I don't even want to say career, because he'll probably go do something else somewhere down the line. You know? And once you find that passion and you begin it, it doesn't mean you have to continue doing that forever and ever and ever. You know, like we talked about before, I've transformed my life myself throughout my whole entire life. You know, been there, done that. Celebrate what you created and move on. And if what you're doing now is creating something bigger and better, then keep moving with it. If it's not, you've succeeded, right? You set out to do something, you did it, you succeeded. Yay, celebrate it. What's next?
I like that. So let's talk about the family dynamic of love. You mentioned, you know, marrying your husband was a different type of love. I see a lot of love being shared even through American Real, you know, through the social media. But it's a different type of love.
Right.
It's people caring about each other.
Right.
Which is good, it's healthy. Different than our spouses.
Right.
But I know you talk about the family dynamic of love. What does that mean to you?
Love is love. You know, It doesn't matter how you try to shape it or form it. Love is just a beautiful energy. It's just a feeling of respect, you know, for another. It's just a beautiful energy. I mean, does it matter if it's love or love? You know, I mean, it all kind of swirls into the same form. So caring about a person and loving an object, it's still love.
And how has that changed in you since, again, you started writing the books?
The appreciation for it is greater. You know, the gratitude for it is greater, and the understanding of it more is greater, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Having that awareness.
Yeah, having that awareness.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I just have a couple more questions,
Okay.
if that's okay. If we were to grab your cell phone right now and you could call 20-year-old Michelle, what would you say to her?
It's funny, I ask my students to do this often, and I don't really do it for myself. So what would I ask, or what would I tell my 20-year-old self? I would tell my 20-year-old self to get out of her own way. Just allow what's coming your way to come. Like, don't push the good things. You know, we have a tendency, especially when you're feeling like you're not, 20s was like probably one of the hardest times of my life, so this is a big struggle. But I'm really trying to think how I was thinking as a 20-year-old. I mean, I definitely was not happy with who I was. I felt like a big failure because I didn't do well in college. I dislocated my knee again my freshman year, so I ended up having surgery. And that's when I really became lost. And I began to drink a lot in college, and so my grades went down the tubes. So I felt like a failure. I let everybody down. But most importantly, I let myself down. So if I could write to my 20-year-old self that failure is really the road to success. You know, failure allows you to see yourself in a different way, in a different view, and to help you understand yourself a little bit better. And if I had only looked within myself to really understand the biggest reason why what happened, I could have used that as a power to move forward. But then again, you know what? Everything happens for a reason, right? If I didn't drop out of school, I wouldn't have met my husband, and I wouldn't have my beautiful kids. So
it was all purposeful.
It was all purposeful. And it's just part of my being. It's part of who I am. So embrace it and suck it up.
What gets you out of bed in the morning? What gets you excited to get your day going?
My work. I love it. I could do it 24/7.
And your work is really your life, right?
It is. Yeah, you have to.
This is your work right now.
It is. I'm spreading the joy. I'm spreading the word. I'm showing people that you can be happy. You know, who doesn't want to be happy, right? I mean, that's my tagline for my website, Angel Guidance for Happiness. I mean, if you don't want to be happy, then what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's, I mean, you know, I'm very blessed. You know, I have, you know, I have a lot. You know, but really that's what really excites me. That's my passion, is trying to create that next meme to put on Facebook that's going to really just, you know, drive somebody to be like, yeah, that's what I needed today, you know, or write that next book, or create that next product, you know, that gives somebody joy. There's so many ways to share joy with people, so many ways to do it. There's so many healers out there that don't realize what they're doing is so beautiful. And if they just took a moment to stop and realize what it is that they're creating, what they're doing with their life, they would appreciate it more and find greater happiness with what they do.
What makes you cry?
A lot. I'm really surprised that the tears haven't come here. That's probably because I haven't really shared a really deep story. What makes me cry is missing my mom and dad, you know. That typically brings tears to my eyes. Seeing somebody else that I love in pain or struggling, that can make me cry. Somebody sharing a beautiful angelic story with me, that makes me cry. And when I'm sharing my stories with others, the really deep ones that really touched me and changed me, that makes me cry.
Are you willing to share one of those stories with us? Because we'd love to know. That's why we're here. I mean,
yeah. This is a new story a story from my new book, and I hadn't shared it with anybody. And after I wrote it, I shared it with my husband for the first time. There was a time when I was at my lowest, and my son was in 7th or 8th grade, and my daughter was in elementary school, and I was really just struggling with everything. I should have been happy, and even my doctor would tell me, you have everything, you should be happy, you know, what's going on. And I think my husband and I had gotten into a disagreement, so I just left to go for a walk, but I didn't walk. I stood in the backyard of our house, looking into the windows and watching everybody just go about their regular routine, doing homework, watching TV. And I stood there and I thought to myself, oh my God, what the hell is wrong with you? And so I walked around to the front of the house. It was almost like I was having an out-of-body experience. I didn't know what the heck was going on with me. I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't want to end my life, but I was just really struggling to figure out, if I were gone, would it make a difference to them or to anybody else, right? Am I just living my life to live my life? Or am I here to make an impact? Am I here to serve a purpose besides raise 2 kids? And it was like the next day, or I think it was the next day, I couldn't get out of bed that day. And I'm not gonna cry. But I cried all day, and the kids for some reason didn't have school that day, and they kept coming to check on me. And that's when it really bothered me the most. And I can't get out of bed. And my daughter would bring me boxes of tissues to help me, try to soothe me. And it made it worse because I was embarrassed, but I could not get out of bed. And obviously I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I remember talking to my friend on the phone, and I said, I know there's something more out there for me to do. I know this isn't it. I was only in my 40s. I'm like, this is not all that life has to offer. There's something more for me to do. And she's like, what do you mean? I go, I don't know. I don't know. Well, now I know. I just trusted and allowed I just allowed Spirit to work with me and to continually leave me the breadcrumbs, the trail. And I just trusted it and I followed the breadcrumbs. And that's when you have that seed, when you know there's something more, when you know there's something different, that's when you have to surrender and just say,
Trust.
Here I am. You know, guide me, show me the way, because I can't do it on my own. I'm not making it happen by myself. I'm not that powerful.
I can't wait to read that in your book. That's in the new book.
That's in the new book.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough to admit, too. You know, it's...
Sure.
But I know if I don't allow my true self to come through for others, then there's no trust in me from them. And I want to help them.
Right, because the truth is there's a lot of people going through the same thing right now.
That feel like they're alone.
Feel like they're alone.
And they're not.
But they also have to be willing to, I mean, you kind of made a joke earlier, suck it up, but you kind of have to, you have to take the bulls by the horn.
Yeah. What's
Right?
that quote in Rocky? Doesn't matter how hard you get hit. No, what is that? Doesn't matter how hard you get hit. It's something about getting up and, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's in our workout room on the wall. Oh, I can't remember that quote.
But basically saying you're
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah. I mean, you can get
getting
knocked
back up.
down,
Right.
but you got to get back up. And sometimes you just got to allow yourself to free fall. And really, I mean, obviously some people have to hit rock bottom
Sure.
before they see that there's something great within them, because there is something great within every single person in this world. And it could be as simple as, your greatness could be as simple as just sitting there and listening to other people. That's a great thing, because people need somebody to talk to. Your greatness could just be being nice to people and opening up the door for an elderly person, or smiling at the homeless person that's, you know, sitting on the park bench, and giving them a moment of hope, a glimpse. You know, so there's greatness in everybody. But you have to find it.
And you talked about depression, anxiety. I mean, obviously, if that's the case, people need to seek help for that.
Yes,
And-
absolutely.
And there is help for that as well.
Talking to your angels is not the only answer for depression,
Right.
anxiety, suicidal thoughts, anything like that. No, you still have to seek professional help, for sure.
Well, Michelle, this has been wonderful, much more than I could have ever anticipated. So thank you for coming here. Before I let you go, one last question,
Sure.
and that is, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind?
Just that I loved life. You know, I never grew up. My husband jokes about that a lot. You know, you never, don't grow up, because I'm just as silly and goofy as I was when I was 10. You know, this is all, you know, my adult self, but that little child is still within me. And that's how you enjoy life. And that I loved. That's the biggest. I don't need a legacy. I know what I've done is good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. We appreciate you being on our show, and welcome to the American Real family.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.